Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man wala ma ba'du. Welcome, our dear viewers, to another episode of Deen Love. We have with us, this is your host, Uthman, and we have with us one of our most anticipated guests, Sheikh Mohamed Soussi. Hayakumullah. Sheikh, how are you doing?
Mashallah. Great.
MashaAllah. So there's been these last 3 episodes, there's been a lot of talk and buzz about this discussion because it hasn't been presented in the way that you've done it in the Muslim community, at least here locally.
No.
And so it got a lot of people thinking about many things.
No.
Marriage and after marriage and the prospect and careers and all these things. So we do have a series of questions, right, that many people have on these 3 episodes that we've done, and hopefully this is going to be our, inshallah, finale that's just, it hits us all right? Really nice. So the first point, we're going to get right into it, is what are some tips for raising daughters, right? And is raising daughters the same way as raising sons?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. طبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا نسأل الله جل جلاله أن يجمعنا في ظل عرشه يوم لا ظل إلا ظله كما جمعنا على طاعته في هذا المجلس الطيب إن شاء الله تعالى إنه ولي ذلك والقادر عليه. أما بعد, the last 3 podcasts were set up to be provocative, really.
Okay.
To be thought challenging and or to hit a few spark plugs, not to turn on lights, literally.
Okay.
Spark plugs, just kind of things that would kind of defy the norm that's out there. And I explicitly did that to kind of be challenging to the thought process and not be boring at the same time, because talking for an hour and a half to 2 hours can get boring if it's not thought provocative.
Yeah.
And maybe the way I started out this session is going to be more of like a muhadara. So I'm going to be a lot more calm, inshallah ta'ala. And we're going to try to wrap it together and maybe clarify a few of those points that some of the brothers and or sisters maybe thought, oh, you mentioned this, but I did not elaborate. They were made for people to go out there and do maybe some homework. And when the brother said we have some questions to clarify and clarifications, I said this would be great. We can spend an hour, hour and a half, whatever it takes to get this all kind of wrapped together, inshallah ta'ala. And maybe we start another series about something else or keep on doing questions. Every time I'm in town, I'm willing to do this, inshallah ta'ala. So the first question was tips about raising daughters and
right.
Absolutely not. Boys and girls are not the same. وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنثَى. The man or the male is not the same as the female, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran. And that's for obvious reasons. There's psychological reasons, physical issue reasons, and the way women are wired biologically is very different than a male and or a man.
Right.
Like for me as a father, it's a lot easier for me to raise daughters. Just and I know a lot of people are kind of maybe puzzling at that, and I think a lot of them are mothers that have this issue with their daughters, and especially single mothers. They do a lot of fighting because what happens is the daughter in particular, and I just want to kind of maybe sum this up a little bit from a sociology standpoint, is that boys and girls need their fathers in the household. That's for sure.
Correct.
And the father represents a calm, represents a go-to person, represents a backbone, a pillar, somebody you can count on, somebody who's there where you feel safe. I had a gentleman, we were talking, and he's older now, and he's been married, and he has his kids.
Okay.
And he said, when my father passed away, rahimahullah, he was sick, and he was in his 50s, so he died kind of early. Early is compared to the life expectancy. And he was about 18 or 19. He said, I was in college. I was a freshman in college or whatever it was.
Okay.
He said, but when my father died, I felt this void of nobody's got my back anymore. If we can, kind of use terminology that's understood.
Right.
I don't have that pillar anymore that before I was carefree.
Okay.
I know my dad was there. He was providing, taking care of everything. So we take these things for granted a lot. And it's even more so with the women, with the girls. And that's why I mentioned this. Every time you see a girl that's perturbed or has issues, you hear this, oh, she has daddy issues. You guys have heard that. The boys have daddy issues too, but it's more so the women and the girls. So the girls need a special, you guys, girls are the best.
Okay.
Because, the boys, they're out there living their lives.
Right.
When you get older, they don't come around anymore. Your daughter will still check on you. She'll still be there. You can still kind of hug your daughter. She's going to show mercy towards you. And you see that most of the elders that get, they get older and they have a daughter, she's the one who's always going to be around.
Correct.
And your daughter will always be in your life until the day you die. You're responsible for her, even if she's married. Because when her husband, let's say there's a divorce or a death, it doesn't matter, separation, she always comes back to her father's house. The daughter just doesn't go and live on her own.
Right.
Okay, so
or she's not supposed to.
Well, if she's older and she has older kids and she wants to be independent, and that's okay. And I don't mean independent in a bad way, because she can. Whether the father left enough money, or she's working, or the sons will provide because they're old enough. And I'm talking about a woman that's over 40, 50, and so forth. She's almost completely independent, and the parents are really elderly anyways.
Yeah.
And she has sons or daughters and whatnot. So and these are all case by case. But the father is always, if she's going to get married again, whom are they going to ask the hand? To the father.
To the father.
And if the father is gone, it would be the brother. So, and this is why, Islam forces the men to take care of women. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Al-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa," that the men are the protectors of women. They are the providers for women.
Okay.
And it's not, like one of the ulama was saying, if you were to put in the contract of zawaj, of marriage, that you will never provide for me. I don't need you to provide for me. I give up that right. And I give up my right for so many things, and you take it to the qadi, the Islamic ruler, or the Islamic judge, and he's going to look at it and say, this is nonsense, because that is her right upon you.
That's right.
So even if she signs 1,000 papers in front of a notary, and the thing is, a lot of people mix secular laws with Islamic laws. And I just kind of wanted to point that out. But raising daughters is beautiful. You guys take advantage of your daughters. They're always there. They're always going to be around you. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tried, and he used the word tried because it used to be a taboo to have daughters back in the day.
Yes.
Okay, alayhi salatu wassalam. And the Prophet ﷺ, he only had daughters. Ibrahim, his son, died really early.
Yeah.
So he only had daughters in his life, alayhi salatu wassalam. And the daughters are always going to be there for you.
Right.
You just need to love them a little bit, and they're going to love you so much back.
How about when there's a lot of sisters who feel like, in terms of responsibility, the men or the boys are not held to higher standard in our communities like the boys are. So they say like, oh, well, he gets to go out. Why is that? Or he gets to do this. Why is that? And I can't.
It goes back to the same prospect of you being married. Why does he go out and work and you stay home, or take care of the household, or take care of the children? The men need to be pushed out of the nest. The men need to be pushed out of the nest, and they need to go out there, and they need to fall, and they need to trip.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about haram.
Okay.
And the problem is, Islam treats zina the same for men and women.
SubhanAllah.
فَاجْلِدُوا كُلَّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَا مِئَةَ جَلْدَةٍ. Whomsoever does this, and the same thing if they're married. So this is the issue that we kind of confuse. Oh, he's going to go have fun. He's going to go do all these things. You should pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that somebody is keeping you hidden and protected.
That's a great way of looking at it.
Why look at it as I'm not free? This is the problem is we, and I'm going to say this throughout. I wasn't prepared to say it now, but I'm going to say it since you had an introduction. We want to have firdaus and live like the kuffar. It doesn't work that way. لأنه ليس بعد الكفر ذنب. There is no dhanb. There is no sin bigger or graver than kufr. After you can, kufr is the ceiling.
Yeah.
So anything below that doesn't matter.
SubhanAllah.
So they could do the best of deeds, and it doesn't matter, they're not going to enter Jannah. So you cannot want, it's just like somebody that wants to go to Harvard, but they want to party like they're going to barely make it through high school. It just doesn't work. And somebody's going to say, always they'll pop up and say, the exception of the rule, الشاذ يحفظ ولا يقاس عليه. There's a few people who are geniuses that they will party more than anybody and still go to Harvard.
Right.
Those are the 1 in a million.
Yes.
Literally. Male or female, those are the geniuses, the genius of geniuses. So those are not things we want to look at. But the majority of people, you're not going to get into a pristine college or university, I should say, if your grades are average or below average, or you barely pass high. It's the same thing. Everybody asks for Firdaus, but they do the work of those who hate Firdaus. So we can't have this double standards. Either we're Muslims and we follow and obey the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we live like the kuffar. But we are so torn because a lot of us were not taught what Islam is, and we don't teach our children this from an early age. That
big
I tell my little children, these are kuffar. They're like, they're going to hellfire. Yes, they're going to hellfire. It's point blank. And I don't say this in a cruel way. We don't want them to go to hellfire. We want to save everybody from hellfire. The Prophet ﷺ was sent in mercy to mankind, or to humanity, or to all of creation. But the thing is, the Christians say the same thing about us.
Yes.
The Jews say the same thing about us. If you don't believe in Jesus, or if you're not saved, you will end up in eternal hellfire.
That's right.
So this is not something that, we cannot say this. They say it about us all the time. So we have to have this mutual understanding that if you die in a state of kufr, you're going to hellfire. If you die in a state of ma'siyah, you're going to be punished.
Right.
And so forth and so on. The closer you are to doing the deeds of kuffar, the closer you're going to be to hellfire.
Exactly.
The closer you are to doing deeds of Ahl al-Jannah, the closer you're going to be to Jannah. And one more last thing that I want to maybe, since we're talking about the girls, and maybe we'll come back to a couple other thoughts, is the biggest issue, and that a lot of us don't understand, that the women, they came to the Prophet ﷺ, and they were worried, how do we get the hasanat? Like everybody, like the men, they go jihad sabila, they go fight and protect Islam, and they go out there on the battlefield, and they give sadaqah, and they have all these righteous deeds that they do that are not written upon the woman.
Right.
And what did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said, the one who takes care of her husband, يَعْدِلُ كُلَّ ذَلِكَ.
Yes.
So why is it that you would rather go and fight on the battlefield, like we talked in one of the other ones, but you're not willing to take care of your husband for the sake of Allah? And then, of course, before your husband, you are in training mode with your parents, and especially your father, for young ladies. So Allah has put you in the care of your father to be in training for that future husband.
Exactly.
And we'll probably elaborate more about these. So just a little bit about what do you want? What do you want to accomplish?
Very thought provocative. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. So that leads us into our second question. Well, there was a statement that you made in the last podcast, and you said that if a woman is working, she's out working, she would have to compensate her husband for the time that she is or she's fallen short on in being a wife to her husband or taking care of the home, XYZ. No. So you said some scholars mentioned that. There was a sister who asked which scholars said this.
Which scholars? Okay. Yeah. First of all, all of the scholars are going to tell you what I said right now, and there's three ways of looking at this.
Okay.
So it's not just something that I found this scholar underneath a wall somewhere or in the Amazon. I don't go hunting for scholars that say something so weird that I want to bring it to you and what's the word? Anyways, tie you down or take away your freedoms. Allah forbid. No, I mean, if you look at, there's three categories. First of all, the ulama said, and this is, the Hanbali madhab is very strict on this, point blank. And the rest of the ulama, they talk about this as well, and they put it in context. Putting this in context, first of all, before you get married, you have to be in agreement that either I'm going to go to school and finish my school,
right,
or I'm going to be able to work.
Okay.
So the ulama have said, if the woman gets married, and before she gets married, I should say, says, this is my condition, and her father, of course, and they agree, and the husband agrees that I will allow her to work, and I will allow her to finish her school, or one or the other, or both, then he has to fulfill that, and he is not to ask any money from her or take her away from that job.
Okay.
All right?
That makes sense.
All right. So, and I just said something that is one of the three.
Okay.
Okay? Now, this is on a big condition that, first of all, where she's going to school will not be a fitna, because the teacher or work, meaning, at first, and of course, if you look at all of our ulama, they're contemporary, or they live in Muslim lands, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And for the past few hundreds of years.
Correct.
So this is not something I just pulled out of somebody's, that said last year. They've
closet.
discussed this for hundreds of years, before women even thought about going out to work, because they thought it was crazy to go work.
That's true.
Okay, so that's a different story. And some women had businesses, but that's not, once again, that's not the majority of women.
Exactly.
And the women that had to work and do things, it was all in preparation for their home, or they did a cleaning job with other women, or they did things with other women, 100%. So that was the only case, And if a woman, her husband was well off, she was the queen. And everybody wanted to get married to that man so they can live that life of if having somebody take care of them and so forth. So coming back to this, so let's say he agrees, and this is the third one I'm pulling from the third, and I'm going to say the one in the middle. If he agrees, but then he finds out later that, hey, this school, fi ikhtilat. There's mingling of the genders, male, female. Or let's say she's in a situation where there's a lot of alphabet community people there. Okay, I'm going to call them alphabet community. This is my thing. I don't even want to give them the I don't even want to give them the satisfaction of mentioning the names that they have. And pretty soon we're going to be having whole alphabet, but it's going to be backwards. So you're going to be teaching your kids, instead of A, B, C, D, F, G, you're going to be saying whatever, and you start with So anyways, having that said, and he finds out that she works in haram, or she's going to school in haram, it is his right Islamically to say you can no longer do this.
And then she would have to obey him.
She would have to, because it's a haram anyways.
Right.
It's haram. And once again, this is Islam. You guys, you have to understand, if you want to be Muslims and you're striving for Firdaus, this is what Islam says. This is not me. I'm not persecuting you.
Okay.
And the men need to know this. And the ulama always mention, if she is teaching, this is the example that every alim, that I've looked this up thinking, did I slip on this? Let me go back and revise, Al-Buhuti fi Rawd al-Murba, this is one of the ulama of the 15th century. Okay. He mentions this opinion. Sheikh bin Uthman fi Sharh Riyad al-Salihin mentions this. Sheikh bin Baz, he mentions the fact that if he says that he promises her and she's working in a good place, that he cannot tell her not to work unless he convinces her and it's a mutual understanding. Those are all, all permissible. But it's very important to understand, if you start out somewhere that you thought was halal and then it becomes haram, you need to get out of that situation. And the man is responsible for his wife. And she is responsible to be asked to be obedient to that husband. So if she says no, then there's a problem.
Big problem.
And women don't understand, a lot of the times, at-tamarrud, to be, non-cooperative
or rebellious.
And rebellious only comes from there are no consequences legally. This is the problem. So, for instance, if you're in a Muslim land and the qadi was Muslim and the judge you're going to is Muslim, 90% of this nonsense would not exist. So we would not be repeating over and over, you have to fear Allah. This is like we're in that, we have to protect ourselves, because there's really no law to kind of push you to stay in that corner. So that's why I said it's safer for the girls that mom is saying, you can't go anywhere. You can't go this. You can't do that. Not because the men are better. No, the men need to be pushed out of the nest. At 15, they were going onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
So the men are out there to fight the fight. And the women are a place of harmony. So when he comes back, they're there to patch him up.
Yeah.
Every time you go to work, it's like going to war.
Yeah.
So when you come home, you want your wife to patch you up. And guess what? She is so fulfilled, and this is in psychology, when she has something to worry about. But if she's out there, akhi, why is this fair? And I'm going to give a plug for the sisters, for my daughters. I want you to understand, it's not fair in a million years that a woman, whom she's the only one who can bear the children, and she's the only one who can lactate the children, for her to go out and work because her husband can't make ends meet. You know, so if they have an agreement, he should not ask. So let's say at first they made an agreement,
Right.
okay, and then so these are two. So yes, you cannot change it, but if the environment is bad, you can change it later on for the sake of Allah.
Okay. What's the third?
And the third one is if she is La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, that they agree, and this is the one I discussed.
Okay.
That let's say it was not mentioned before the marriage. And she came, and a year later, she said, Wallahi, I found this great job, this teaching job, this and this and that. And the man says, you know what? I want a quarter of that. I want a half of that. I want all of it if you want to go work. If she agrees to that, then she has to pay him that or contribute to the household. However you want to call it, doesn't matter. He's not going to take that money. He's going to contribute towards the household. And this is like the first one. If you agree before marriage, it's on. If you agree after marriage, this is the requirement that she has to pay him a certain amount. And there is no amount like 10 or 20 or 30. Right. It's based on agreement.
Right.
If he says it's okay to go, then go. But I want you to know that you need to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 95% of the environments of today's world are not halal for a woman to work in.
Okay.
And if you can think of some, let me know. And I'm talking especially in America, akhi. Even if you're teaching at an Islamic school, you're dealing with you're going to be in a khalwa with the mudir, with the principal. You're going to be talking with men. You're going to be, akhi, the biggest thing of mingling of the genders is when the women lose their hayat. They lose their modesty. And one thing I came back to remember, tips on raising daughters. Ulama at-tarbiyah, they say, the scholars of tarbiyah, Islamic tarbiyah, they say, after the age of 3, do not allow the girls to enter the majalis of men. So they don't get used to being around men other than the father.
Right.
In this, of course, all that love and all that affection she'll have for the father is going to build her to be a wife that will only give that attention and care to her husband in the future. And her hayat, her modesty, will not go away. In one of our biggest issues, we send our kids out to schools, and this is a modern issue for Muslims, non-Muslims, everybody. And so you have to always work against that and teach against it and so forth, because it's so hard that ever since they're 5 years old, we send them out to school and they're dealing with little boys and they're dealing with men as they grow older, and then they go to university and the teacher is a man. So there's a lot, and that's where a lot of women, they lose their hayat.
Yeah, not only that, but in this country, they're encouraged to
of course,
to be outgoing and not to be quiet and shy, and we want you to
and those are all masculine traits.
Yeah.
These are not feminine traits. They're not feminine traits at all.
Jazakallah khair. And so the next question we have is actually quite controversial. This is a phenomenon that's happened, brought into the Muslim community, especially amongst the young men now who are just not going to take it anymore, from a lot of, the feminists and the sort of left-wing agenda. So there's a concept called the red pill that you know about. The red pill community, society, and a lot of young brothers now are starting to fall into this. You got proponents that propagate this, like Kevin Samuels and the likes of him, right? And so a lot of the things they say make sense. A lot of the things they say do make sense. But now the question is this permissible for a Muslim to embrace this sort of community and to follow it to the T?
Did you guys remember what I said about the red pill society?
Yes, we do.
What did I say?
So you mentioned that we're Muslims and not everything, something to that effect.
I said that the red pill society has a lot of things that don't contradict Islam.
Exactly, yeah.
But we are Muslims and we are not to follow everything that the red pill society adheres to.
Yeah. So
but I just left it at that
because
I wanted people to think about what the red pill is.
Okay.
So let's start out with the whole red pill genre and kind of how it started.
Okay.
Back in 1999, I believe, the first movie of The Matrix came out, for those of you who've heard of The Matrix. And there was the red pill and then the blue pill. The blue pill is to stay in bliss, to stay in ignorance and not worry about what's going on around you. Then the red pill was to open your eyes and see the controversy that's around us, that's leading our lives, and we don't know about it.
And you're woke now.
You're awake.
Yeah.
And, you've been woken, or you wake up, or however you want to. And I wanted to make a little disclaimer, you guys. sometimes I find myself saying few words that are like, what? How did you, like some people say ax instead of ask.
Okay.
So I catch myself saying, forgive me. I speak 3 languages all the time. And a lot of times words in French will pop in my head with Arabic, and then I have the English word, and it just goes, it's completely nuts. So, instead of saying progeny, I think a couple times I said prodigy. And that's, derived from a French word. And so, please forgive me on that. Cut me a little bit of slack. I try to be very articulate, but if it pops up in a different language, I have a hard time finding the word in English, and I have to get on. That's why I'm at second half, an hour is better, because then I haven't spoken any Arabic or French, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
Let's do it.
And my mind just kind of focuses on that. So the whole Red Pill Society, then Elon Musk kind of revived this in 2020, so about a year ago, and he was talking about to contradict the left movement, the leftist, and the feminist movement. So it came as a reaction. So the Red Pill movement, we always talk about being awake, being smart, but being educated.
Right.
Know your rights, know what's going on around you, be aware. And I'm all about being aware of your surroundings a lot. That's what I teach my kids. That's what I always teach in my halaqas. Be aware. So when somebody says they're red-pilled, I'm hoping they're saying it like in the good fast. It's like, hey, I'm awake. I know what's going on around me. But as a Muslim, we should not regurgitate this word, because at the end of the day, it's a cult of some sort. Okay, and I've seen even some da'is and students of knowledge responding to Kevin Samuels, whom I've listened to quite a bit, just to kind of get an idea of what is out there, and I do that. Jordan Peterson, a lot of these guys I listen to that you guys listen to, so I understand when questions come. I know where they're coming from. I'm very aware, and I haven't listened to a half of an hour of Kevin. I probably listened to hours.
Okay,
and when I'm busy doing something, he's in my background. And okay, a lot of the things Kevin say are just common sense or of Islam or have a Christian background.
Yeah.
But you guys, at the end of the day, Kevin Samuels is a kafir, luka' bin luka'.
SubhanAllah.
He's a mujrim. So we guys have to understand this. We don't just take and eat up everything that the kuffar are bringing.
This goes with every
ideology.
Every ideology, absolutely.
Everybody and everything. So we have to understand, like, even when you're learning philosophy, the ulama said, don't learn philosophy because it'll take you down the path of ilhad. Ibn Qayyim said this 700 years ago, rahimahullah. He said, I only learned philosophy to know how to respond to philosophers that were coming and attacking Islam.
Right.
Otherwise, I would not learn it because it's so dangerous. It makes you think that you're intellectually worthy and you're intellectually capable and and that's what ilhad is. Ilhad, you can start to get to the point where if it doesn't make sense,
I just reject it.
How if it doesn't make sense or it's not tangible, whether I can see it or feel it, it's not tangible, how can I understand it? But al-iman is not tangible. Al-jannah wal-nar are non-tangible. They need belief. Al-iman bil-yawm bil-akhir, bil-ba'ath, bil-qabr, bil-mizan, bil-hisab. All these, as believers, we say, آمنا قل سمعنا وأطعنا آمنا بالله ولا آمنت بالله. So we say this, and that means there's a component of belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this, we believe it wholeheartedly. I don't care if all the scholars of the dunya sit and they say one thing and the Quran says another. I don't try to conform that ideology of dunya or of human beings and try to fit it onto the Quran. A lot of people get excited, this has been said in the Quran. I don't care what the kuffar say. Or the Muslims that are out there studying. I care what the Quran say. Allah's going to ask me about the Quran. He's not going to ask me about certain things that are still theories at the end of the day, because 100 years ago they say something, now they say something else.
Exactly.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. You have only been given a very small portion of ilm. So this is what we have been given. This is not what we have and we can grow it. What has been given, means it's been decreed for us, is to have just a little bit of knowledge. That's it. We'll never exceed that as human beings. And that's why people say, we only use 10% of my brain. How can I use more? That Allah has decreed that's all you're going to use. So embrace it and use it to worship Allah properly. So the likes of, Kevin, or the likes of, there's a lot of podcasters out there, and there's a lot of nonsense out there. So the likes, for instance, of Kevin Samuels, or like, I think you mentioned Joe Rogan,
Jordan Peterson.
A lot. I mean, even Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is a psychologist. I learn a lot from Jordan Peterson. I mean, I would recommend his book, The 12 Rules of Life. It's a good book, but we always have to look at these things objectively. At the end of the day, these guys are kuffar, and they're led by their emotions, and they're led about their they think at their intellect. And at the end of the day, all of that is enveloped in the shaitan.
Right.
And that's really what it is, because they don't have any balances. Yeah. There's no insight from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if they say something right, it's like somebody said about the television. He said, if you had a whole huge jar or a huge bucket full of honey, and then, ajallakum Allah, you put, some doo-doo on it. Would you eat that honey? Would you just scoop out and eat that honey, or would you throw all of it away? Well, it might ruin it, right? Now, imagine that the TV and the internet and these podcasts are a big bucket of doo-doo, and they have a little honey on it. Would you be thinking twice about that? You wouldn't, right? But we have to realize this. And that's kind of what I mentioned about, being philosophical and being, using ilm too much and thinking you're smart and you're thinking it's not, we have iman, we are believers. So we always have to go back to our deen and what our deen says. So if a young man says, oh, I'm red-pilled, understand what that means, okay? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين. Who has the best of speech other than those who do righteous deeds?
Right.
And what did they do? They said,
we are Muslims.
We are of the believers, or we are Muslims.
Those who submitted to Allah.
Of course. How do you do عامل صالحا? To do the good deeds, you have to be in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. Absolutely. So this is when somebody asks, even today, we have the Salafin, we have the Shi'in, we have this. The best thing is to say, Ana Muslim. Yes, and attabi'u salaf salih. I follow the righteous predecessors.
Absolutely. Yes,
I follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and a Sunni. Right. And we have to say these things because there's a lot of controversy about certain names. But these are names that the ulama have used for hundreds of years and centuries. So we have to understand, we can't be red-pilled and Muslim.
Exactly.
Okay, because I was talking to you about, our daughters and how we love them and how we protect them and how, they're so dear to us and we're willing to do anything for our daughters, and they will always be in our guardianship and responsibility until the day we die. Or, if the father's dead, then the brother or the uncle, there's somebody in the family that takes care of the daughter. She just doesn't go out. We don't have homeless daughters in Islam. It's forbidden. Ikhwani, it's forbidden. A daughter should never think, what am I going to eat tomorrow, if she has men in her family. There's different situations where some women are refugees or don't have, but still, the men of Islam should be there.
Yeah, the men of the community, definitely.
The men of Islam that are in her community, and Muslims should be there for her. So our women just don't go homeless or go hungry. This is one of the worst atrocities that men could commit, and they will be asked about this in front of the Day of Judgment. So in front of Allah on the Day of Judgment. So we have to be very aware. Like somebody said that like some of the da'is, they were responding, like I said to Kevin, or responding to here. Kevin is a kafir. And a fasaq.
صح.
These guys, they drink, they smoke, and they promote zina. What else do you want? So this is kind of dangerous where we don't understand. We listen to stuff, and like I said, every ideology will have common threads with Islam. Almost. People say we don't steal, we don't kill, all these different ideologies. But at the end of the day, we are Muslims. If you're going to follow anybody, you follow Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
So,
no red pill, you guys.
No red pill. No red pilling, right? But are we blue pilling? We gotta talk about that.
No. That's what I said. We want you to be aware.
Yeah.
And not the concept of we want you to be aware. We want you to be against the leftist agenda, because if it takes enough good people to not fight evil for it to prevail.
Sorry.
And I say good people everywhere. All religions have to stand in hand in hand right now and fight the leftist agenda.
Yeah.
That means Muslims.
Sorry.
And each one does their part. So in that facet, we have to say no to haram. We have to say no to evil.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get political with
and
you
this
guys.
is important and summarized in يا أيها الذين آمنوا يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم. And the Deen is what gives us life. It gives us what? It gives us awareness. It gives us the reality of things, right? Allah will unveil the reality to the people who are believers, right? So you have that iman. May Allah make us from His close ones. Yeah. Next question is, when someone gets married here, this is also sort of controversial in our community, specifically Somali community, is that should the couple go get married at the courthouse papers? And the reason why there's some concern now is because we're starting to see the same phenomena in the non-Muslim marriages happening in the Muslim marriages. So you have these things where divorce happens, children, all that stuff. So now your marriage is subject to the laws of the state, right? And so the woman, if she wanted to, she can divorce you, even though she doesn't have that right primarily, but she can go and divorce you at the court, right? So is it wise to go and get married and get certificate?
But you guys have to understand there's cohabitation laws as well, meaning if you live with somebody and you can prove it for 5 years, it's as if you're married. So you're stuck either way. So if you have children from somebody and you've been living together and she says we're married, that's marriage in the eye of the state. So I want you guys to understand, getting married at the court unfortunately protects both parties.
Yeah.
Because if they can go and say, because you have to understand, in the law of the land, if you're technically not married, you don't get any tax breaks. You might have problems with insurance.
Right.
The problem is a lot of people now say, I'll just go to the state. We're talking about people who work and who have insurance, who have children. You guys have to take this into consideration.
Absolutely.
And the ulama did not negate going to the secular realm and writing it down. The nikah has to be done Islamically.
Right.
هذا يعني لتثبيت الحقوق is what the ulama said. Is to write down, or cross the T's and dot the I's for your rights.
Right.
Man or woman. Because what's keeping her from saying these are my children? And I had him out of wedlock. You don't have any rights if you're not on the marriage certificate, you can have, if your woman's going to not fear Allah, you might not have any rights to your children.
So you're saying it wouldn't
be wise.
Okay, it would be
wise to do it.
Okay.
It would be very wise to do it, because today, unfortunately, a lot of people don't fear Allah. And when something stupid happens, or the husband, if somebody's not going to fear Allah, whether you're married or not, they can ruin your life.
Okay.
So we have to understand that.
So then, since we're here at this question, I'm just going to tie it in quickly. Is what if there's a young brother he's making a lot of money and he may be concerned that, if his wife divorces him under the laws of the state, she may be entitled to some of the money that he has.
A lot of the money
that he has. No. So then prenups.
Yes.
What would you say about prenups?
Absolutely.
To these young men?
Should do a prenup.
Okay.
There's nothing against it.
Could you just briefly explain to the viewers what that is?
Because the prenuptial is an agreement that everything I had before we got married, or whatever you write in there, will be what you can take to the judge.
Okay.
And sue me for after divorce.
So.
But the thing is, think about it, sisters. What if you were a businesswoman, you had a lot of money, and your husband was a bum, or poor or sick or whatever. I don't mean it in a bad way, you guys. Please, I just trying to keep a little interested. And would you want him to go and get half of your wealth? See, it works both ways. We just never look at it.
Yeah,
we only look at it from one angle.
Exactly.
So a prenuptial agreement is, I would say, almost mandatory, and it's a aqd that they write prior to. There's absolutely no problem in it, sharan, as long as it's put in there. So you can put in the prenuptial agreement, or you can have a certain agreement that says that we will abide by Islamic law.
Right.
So if you get married, the state will honor that you have a judge Islamically to have the separation of the divorce.
Okay.
But you have to be married. So once again, if you're not married on paper, you might lose your rights.
Okay.
So you guys, this isn't the wild west anymore. You're not back home where the sheikh of the qabila is going to come up and say, I'll take all your goats and beat you, and your family is going to be boycotted. This is not a joke, you guys.
Yeah.
So you're going to get married here, men or women. Be aware of what your rights are, what your responsibility is. But the most important thing, dear brothers, what did the Prophet ﷺ said? تنكح المرأة لأربعة تنكح لجمالها
صح.
ولنسبها أو حسبها ولمالها ولدينها فاظفر بذات الدين تربت يداك. That the woman is married for her money, for her lineage or family ties, to her beauty and or her deen. Marry the one with the deen that you will be successful. So if you want to be successful, deal with a woman that fears Allah. When you guys have an issue, the first thing she's thinking is, I want to go sit down with a sheikh, and if he says I need to jump from a building on my head, and that's what Allah says, then I will do it.
Sorry.
You know, and that's just an example. I didn't say jump out. Please, you guys. Same thing with the man. You know, I want you to be aware, because if you bring the husband to us and some crazy stuff, I know there's a question about beating and that towards the end.
God.
We're going to punch his lights out. So I'm telling you guys, you know, our sisters have rights with us,
صح.
but you guys have to come the proper way.
Yes.
And a lot of people mess up. They go live like the wild, wild west and live like the, you know, whatever craziness of the dunya. When everything explodes, then they come and they want you to fix the problem.
صح, صح.
No, come to us first, inshallah ta'ala, and we will, bi'idhnillah, hopefully there's still righteous men that can say this is halal, this is haram. And at the end of the day, subhanallah, فَالَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا ذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, pay attention and be to your enemy as if he is the closest of kin or friends. فَالَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. Get to the point where you and the person who have such a huge rupture and animosity that you can treat them like the closest of friend. So Allah, He says, وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا الَّذِينَ صَبْرُوا. The ones who will get to this status are those who are extremely patient.
Subhanallah.
And then He says, وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا ذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. And those who will actually attain this as well, they will be exceedingly what's the word I'm looking for? Subhanallah. I had it on the tip of my tongue. Lucky.
Or fortunate.
Fortunate is the good word. Yeah. So they will be extremely fortunate. Subhanallah. So this powerful. Is if you married your husband and there's some love between you and there's a family and there's kids, don't drop it down a notch. And we said the sisters are the thermometers. Why doesn't he? Don't ask why doesn't he. Just do what you can. You cannot control your spouse, husband or wife. You can only control what you can do. Yes, I tell the sisters, I tell my daughter, I tell my wife that you're the thermometer. You know, somebody like me is just hot-blooded. You can't go head-to-head with me. You just can't. And if your husband's like that, don't. Just don't. And if you can't and you're not that person, don't marry that person. So we want to create awareness is to choose right.
Exactly.
You know? And if you choose rightly, what did the ulama say about the man that will hate his spouse? He said, إِن كَرِهَهَا لَمْ يَظْلِمْهَا وَإِنْ أَحَبَّهَا أَكْرَمَهَا.
Subhanallah.
What they say, if he hates her, he will not transgress upon her. He will not forbid her rights. But if he loves her, he will shower his bounty upon her. This is the righteous man that you want to marry, that he won't transgress upon you. You guys, be aware of this stuff. Sisters.
Allah, we're living in a different time, Shaykh.
I know. I'm telling you what Islam says. We have to come back. We have to come back, akhi. We have to come back. Maybe we're just not aware. We've never heard of these things. And we're like, where's he living? I'm living right here. I'm living in Plano, Texas.
SubhanAllah.
You know? Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So, Allah yabarak feek. And so the next question has to do with whilst they're spouses, they're married already. So what should a spouse do, husband or wife, if they suspect cheating? So they suspect cheating. What are because again, like you mentioned before, we're not in a Muslim country.
No.
Right? So even if you did find out, how would you even go about it? You know, what are, you know, so
you have to find out, you have to define what cheating is first of all. Okay? First of all, a lot of suspect might be of shaitan, but the Arabs, they say that there's no smoke without fire.
Subhanallah.
There's no smoke without fire, meaning a lot of times there are clues.
Yes, indications.
Indications. Okay? But a lot of this come from being suspicious.
Yes.
Which is a problem because it can come to a point of waswas. So it becomes an ailment. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا? Do not spy on one another. وَلَا تَجَسُّسُ. التجسس من الكبائر.
SubhanAllah.
It's one of the major sins to go and dig in your husband's phone, to go and dig in your wife's phone. We have to be, even if there's suspicion, we have to address it with hikmah.
In the proper way.
In the proper way. And even if the man, and you have to see what's cheating, like I said. Is cheating that he's talking to somebody? We have to give that the benefit of the doubt. Okay? And one of the biggest things, for instance, this is why we say if the woman stays home, it's pure for her heart. Okay? Because she could be talking to somebody from school, from work, I apologize, or school, and a message comes in and you read it in a bad way, but you just don't say anything, and the shaitan builds it.
Exactly.
I'm just giving you an example. And it could have vice versa. We've had all of these sisters ask the mashaykh and ulama, for years, oh, my husband, some woman said, ya habibi to him. And for instance, if you're in Egypt, ya habibi is normal.
Yeah.
You shouldn't say it to a married man,
Right.
but if it comes out, it's normal. So, if the woman's from Tunis, she's going to be like, habibi, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the cultural stuff, and I understand you women understand this, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He didn't make it for, to have the punishment of zina until 4 witnesses are available.
SubhanAllah.
Or the husband himself, he is the witness of it, wal'ayadhu billah, and he makes halaf 4 times.
SubhanAllah.
Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do this? Because the husband would not want to say anything ill about his wife.
Yeah.
Because that's his ird.
Sah. His honor.
That's his honor. Okay? So in these cases, it's very clear cut what Islam wants, and you can look that up. That's what, if you're talking about the ultimate cheating and you have proof of it, how would you go about it? La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And I might be giving you guys, like some advice that you might think is contradictive, but I would go to therapy. You can't just bring your husband to the masjid and we're going to stone him. No, because if he's married and vice versa. If you can't live with the person, separate in peace.
Yeah.
Just separate and cover their sin. Ikhwani, cover their sin. Nobody needs to know why you divorced. We can no longer live together.
So.
You have children. Don't ruin it for your children. Always think. And a lot of us, we try to live in this bliss, like ostriches. We just put our head in the sand and it's going to be okay. Think a little bit ahead. What would happen if my spouse cheated on me? Really? So when la samah it happens,
Yes.
your reaction will be tamed with wisdom because you've thought about it.
Yes.
You have some steps that you can do. And these are, the specifics of ENTJs. We are war planners, so we always plan for the worst and have the exit strategies and everything. So, a lot of people are just so oblivious; they don't know what's going on. But then they get into these problems and they don't know how to deal with them.
Yeah.
So, if you look at this and say, "Okay, what if I did this?" We sit down and we amicably say, "You know what? For the sake of my children, everybody can make a mistake."
Yeah.
I want you guys to understand, especially in this day and age. And this is why we say we should not, have this mingling. Because we've heard, Ikhwani, look, the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, Al-ham wal-maut, the women were told that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the men and women should not mingle. And one of the Sahaba, I believe, or Sahabiya, she said, Ara'ayta al-hamu ya Rasulullah. Have you seen the in-law, especially the brother of the husband?
Yeah.
The brother of the husband is called al-hamu.
Sah.
Okay? Or their brothers,
Yeah.
And the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-hamu wal-maut.
SubhanAllah.
This in-law, this brother-in-law is death.
SubhanAllah.
He will bring death to the family. And even if that is 1%, and it's not everybody, it's enough. Oh, he's just my brother-in-law.
People get really comfortable with this.
I love him. Don't love him. What do you mean you love him?
They hug and they go out
A'udhu
shopping.
billah, but I don't want to hear that.
Inna
A'udhu
lillahi.
billah min ghadab billah. Sallallahu al-afwa wal-afiya, akhi.
Allahumma ameen.
How many people we've seen
Sallallahu
fall
alayhi
into
wa
these problems, and the kids are not the real children of the father, they're of the brother-in-law. And this is prominent. This is not 1 or 2 stories. We've heard tons and tons of stories like this, from people we know and we've heard them. يعني أعوذ بالله أخي.
Yes.
And so imagine that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the alhamu, the in-law is death, meaning you should never have him come into the house. Why do you bring in somebody's friend and you all sit on the table and you have dinner together and you're all laughing and smiling, having fun? Huh? What makes you think that your wife is not going to like the way he laughs and she cannot leave that out of her head? Imagine. And vice versa. That when you smile, you scare away the living dead. And your friend that you bring over smiles and her teeth are straight and she is feminine. What is that going to do to your husband? Of course, you don't want him to do ta'addud. You just want to bring women to drive him crazy. We have to fear Allah and understand Allah made this for a reason. And this problem usually happens to those who say, you guys are backwards.
Yes.
Oh, you guys, we mingle with men all day.
Double dating.
The biggest issue with this, akhi, is when you go against the teachings of Islam and Allah, that Allah will test you. Nasallahu al-afwa al-afiyah. It's very dangerous.
It's very, very.
I'm just telling you. And one last thing I want you sisters to understand. Salatul mar'ati, yani we talked about earlier about treating the husband right is better than jihad for sabilillah. It's better than sadaqah for the woman.
Yes.
Okay, what else do you want?
Which is
I want to go to Firdaus. I want to go fight. No, you don't fight.
Which is a great question.
You stay home. If you're going to stay home and treat your husband right, you're going to Jannah. What else do you want?
It's like that's all you have to do.
Akhi, what do you want?
I would love for me just to have to do all that.
Akhi, us men, of course. And that's why a lot of men who don't have Deen, they're like, let her go work.
Yeah, exactly.
Let her spend her own money. This is what let her go spend her own money, Sheikh. She's been bugging me. She always wants to go out. Now that she has her own money, she doesn't go out. MashaAllah alayk. This is a problem. So we have to understand why a lot of these problems happen is because we go against the teachings of Islam. You know? So is it better for the woman to pray in her house and in her room or to pray at the masjid? Is it better for the sister to pray at home or to pray at the masjid?
Sure.
You know, I see a lot of women, like we go to Fajr in Dallas or maybe sometimes around here, that women come and pray Fajr. There's dozens of them. They come and pray Fajr at the masjid. But what if the woman knew that it's better off for her to pray at home? And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Khayru afdalu salat al-mar'ati fi baytiha." That the best salat for the woman is in her house. Where she is protected and she's not creating fitna, and she's not, even if she's wearing a tent, she will create fitna. She will. And why leave your house at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. and you have kids or you have so many things that you could do, or you could be praying to Allah, you could be making, while your husband is gone, you could be making dua. And at the end of the day, if you're looking, are you looking for the ajr? Because the thing is we don't understand is, it's just like when the men say, oh, I feel more comfortable praying at home. You didn't get you don't get it.
Yeah.
It's 27 times and 25 times, depending on the hadith, to pray at the masjid better than pray at your home. Your home. And your salat the masjid is accepted, inshallah.
Can I actually throw something at you real quick?
Yeah.
Because this is, there was a institute. I'm not going to mention the name of it. A sister was studying there. It's in America, probably around the area that you're living in right now, and. So the instructor, and she sent an audio clip of this instructor to me saying, he wasn't saying it to me, but the instructor was saying to her in the class that hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said to the women that they should pray inside their homes because there were a lot of raids happening from Quraysh, the Meccans, and he was doing it. So Imam Nawawi, he claimed Imam Nawawi said that. I don't know about that. He said that because of that, that's why the Prophet told them to pray inside their homes, and it wasn't for any other reason. But the
Prophet ﷺ, he said, the thing is, there's a sunnah maqula للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. I mean, قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم sunnah.
Right.
Yani, this is not something that he said. Ikhwani, when people try to twist and turn the words of the Prophet ﷺ, he said, خير صلاة المرأة في بيتها. Okay, and then there's another hadith, خير صلاة المرأة في قومها ثم في بيتها ثم في حجرتها, and he showed that the closer she is to her room and her private little space at home, that it's way better for her. If anybody was going to be sent out to the masjid, it would have been the women of the Prophet ﷺ. They used to live in the masjid. And they didn't come out and pray with the men in the back, even in the back of the masjid. Okay. And the Prophet and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِذَا سَأَلْتُمُهُنَّ متاعا فاسألوهن من وراء حجاب. If you're going to talk to the women of the mothers of the believers, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, talk to them from behind a curtain. If they can't marry them and they're the ones that everybody loves and doesn't look at them in a way that is shahwa,
Yes.
what do you think all the other women should do?
SubhanAllah.
You know, and the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا خَرَجَتِ الْمَرْأَةُ مِنْ بَيْتِهَا اسْتَشْرَفَهَا الشَّيْطَانِ, that the woman, as soon as she leaves the house, that the shaitan hangs out with her. Yani he grabs her and he tries to make her a fitna, whether the way she walks or talks or laughs. Akhi, you guys maybe don't look at this from just from a normal standpoint. Your wife is at work, okay? She has to work, or she's at work, okay? And men, for instance, they always want to show off in front of women. This is a nature.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, if they're really strong believers, they might not want to do this. But then, the man is sitting there in a cubicle and he starts cracking jokes. Of course, your wife is a musalliya, muhajjaba, hajja, niqabiya, and everything. And what that man is doing, he's trying to break her silence. SubhanAllah. Wallahi, akhi, I've seen it more than once. I've heard it more than once. And a lot of these men, they don't fear Allah. They say, Wallahi, I'll make her laugh. Why do you put yourself in that position? Now she starts laughing with Abdul Qadir or Abdul Muhammad wala Salih, and then you come home, you don't know a joke to save your life, and now that person is sharing your heart. This is the problem, you guys. You want people to share your heart. You men, you want your women to have somebody share their heart. Why? It happens by somebody being funny, somebody being looking good, smelling good. If she sees it over and over, the shaitan will throw something, especially on that day that you guys were fighting. Don't think it's always going to be roses for your wife.
No.
You're fighting with your wife at the cubicle and you go there and, oh, ya Muhammad, anti za'lana leh? Why are you mad? And now he's a counselor. And we've heard of stories of men running off with other women and committing zina. You guys, this is not like, I'm not saying this preventatively, like, oh, this never happened, but inshallah it doesn't. I'm talking to you based off experience. This happens a lot. This happens so much. These are not just one in a million stories. These happen a lot. And the least of it is they're good friends and she trusts him. And then instead of her reconciling with you, because women need the non-sexual attention of males. So if you don't give it to her at home because you're fighting with her, and Muhammad is willing to give it to her at work, she's going to seek it. Why? Because she is weak. She is feeble as a woman. She with her emotions.
Feeble.
That's
Sorry.
what I mean. Feeble?
Yeah, you said fable.
Faible, that's a French word. Thank you. See, I'm telling you guys, that's what it is in French. It's faible. F-A-I-B-L-E.
Okay, we're learning.
Yes. So, alhamdulillah, Allah brought you guys an example. So I'm telling you guys, be very, very careful. Ghadh al-basar is good for both parties. And if the salat in your house is better for you, why do you want to go to the masjid?
Yeah.
Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, the women, no more at the masjid. And the Prophet ﷺ, قال لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد الله. Don't forbid the women to go to the masjid. This doesn't mean that they should go there and be in the saf al-awwal and lead the prayer. That means from time to time, if she's going to go, or an Jum'ah or Yom al-Eid especially, that you should not prevent her to go.
Yeah.
But I would prevent my wife from going all the time to the masjid. You guys, it's better for her. It's just like it's better for me to pray at the masjid. It's better for her to pray at home. So if it's better for her not to go to the masjid, how is it better for her to go to a job? And it's not her duty. It's not a responsibility to have a job in Islam at all.
Great point. Jazakallah khair. Next question.
So with the cheating thing, I'm sorry. Let me touch up on this. So I said all this for a reason. Ikhwani, I would recommend therapy. And you guys, if you can work through it, and you can protect her honor and she can protect your honor and vice versa. We're in a very, very, very stringent and bad time.
Chaotic,
if I can say,
yeah,
I can say a fitna time.
Yes.
And it's not hard to do when people are out there and we're working. Akhi, if a woman today has 1 or 2 children, she barely has enough time to take care of them and take care of her body and her health and her beauty and to feel just like a woman.
Yeah.
The average woman, after paying for the extra car, the extra gas, the extra food, the extra, they say pantyhose in business, that she has to wear, short skirts and all this stuff. She only nets about $500 to $1,000 a month after taking all that away. and we're going to talk about daycare, I think, in a few
Yep,
seconds.
yes, we are,
so
sir.
I'm going to leave that at that.
So
So you lose your beauty, your age, your Deen,
It's not
and probably you ruin your marriage just for an extra $1,000 a month, or
Nas'Allah
even if it's
al-afiyah.
2,000 a
Allah.
month. You know.
yeah. So the next question is, what advice do you have to sisters who are afraid to get married because of the bad stories they've heard? We have a lot of sisters that are like this, right? They're hesitant because they know fulana that didn't work out for, or they know Aisha, or they know Fatima and all this
Yeah.
stuff. So they're like, oh, I heard about that. I'm definitely not doing it.
Don't do it.
They'll get married.
Akhi, stay without a man.
Okay.
But here's the problem.
Or is-
It's just simple.
Yeah.
You're free. I'm not going to force you to marry anybody.
Okay.
Remember in one of the podcasts I said women are buy one, get one free. I didn't say it in a derogatory way. There's an abundance of women.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, akhi. So you don't want to marry. Don't let the mistakes of the past ruin the future. Don't let the mistakes of others ruin your future. Single women keep single women single.
Subhanallah.
You hang out with divorced women, you'll either become divorced or you'll never marry. And that's what they want. Misery loves company. If you want to have a successful marriage, hang out with women who have a successful marriage. That's the first thing you should be seeking. Seek women who are successful. Uqsimu billah, you'll start to see successful people. How do I know this? How many of you have bought a car before? Almost everybody has bought a car. You never knew how much it was out on the road until you bought that car, and you see it everywhere. Sah wala la?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
You buy a car, like, oh, this looks nice. Not so many people drive this.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be distinctive.
Everybody
and you
has
get
it.
on the road, and it's like the guy next to you, the guy that bumps you. That everybody has that car.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. If you hang out with people that are losers, that have not won, they've lost in their life, and your entourage is negative and sorry, that's what you're going to become.
Subhanallah.
You are who you hang out with in the books you read.
Subhanallah.
These two are very, very, the company you keep and the books you read.
So sisters, you heard it. If you're hanging out with entourage of sisters who are just single, right?
You're going to be single.
You're going to be single for a long time.
For sure.
All right, I'm just throwing it out there. But nas'Allah at-tawfiq wa sadad.
I mean, every time you go, for instance, to a job, how many months does it take for you to train for that job? Months, a year, 6 months to a year, depending on the job. The more
Absolutely.
complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, why doesn't a woman go and hang out with her cousin who's married and learn from her?
Lifetime
But somebody
investment.
who's successful,
So-
not somebody who's just married and has 6 kids
That's a
and
great
and
point.
they went and they, got bigger because they don't care. Same thing with the men. We tell the men this stuff. Don't let yourself go. But the beauty of the sister, you guys, come on. You live in America.
Yeah.
Wallahi, I had a brother. He said his wife said, "Allah yakun fi aunkum." May Allah protect you guys. We did not see these types of women back home. You guys see them all day long. These Jessica and Mecca and Makina, Shakina, Tawina, everybody has a different flavor. There's every flavor you want. It's available out there.
Wallahi, it is.
And there's all different sizes and shapes, but a lot of them work out. A lot of them are thin. And they have children just like you. There's no reason. If you're sitting home, you should be able to work out an hour a day.
Yeah.
Why not?
You need to get more fit.
I want you to stay home. I want you to be protected. But don't sit and do nonsense and waste time and kill time and do all this.
TikTok and
So the sisters that want to get married, don't listen to negative people. Even if the divorce rate is 50%, and 70 to 80% are emotionally divorced, and there is a 20% success rate. That's an almost, I think they call it the Pilato rule or something Pilato rule. It's the 80-20 rule. It's in everything.
So,
Most businesses fail the first year. It's a 95% fail rate the first year. If you get to the second year, you're at 80%. So you guys, the same thing with marriages. If you get through the first and second year, you can make it successful. But I want you to understand, الذي يريد ما عند الله عليه أن يطيع الله.
subhanallah.
لا ينال ما عند الله بمعصية الله. So if you want to have what Allah has, meaning, like the Prophet ﷺ said, يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلبي على دينك.
Ala dinik.
Oh, you who can twist the hearts or flip the hearts back and forth, please steadfast my heart or keep it tranquil on al-haq,
Yes.
And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-qulubu bayna asbu'ayn min asabi' rahman yuqallibu kayfa yasha." That the Prophet ﷺ said that the heart is between the two fingers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He flips them back and forth, meaning He changes them in the way He wants. So if a woman wants Allah to flip the heart of her husband towards her, towards loving her, towards changing, she has to be somebody who's close to Allah.
SubhanAllah.
Because if you're going against the deen of Allah and you're asking, well, why is this? And why is that? Well, I don't understand this. And then you want to have tranquility. And of course, you're going to go to Firdaus al-A'la ma'a al-Nabiyyin or Siddiqeen. Come on, you guys. Stop playing. You know, this it doesn't need a lot of knowledge. This is common sense. Write down the 5 things that you want to have in life. And then say, what are you doing to fulfill them? You want to go to Firdaus like number 1. If I didn't tell you this and you wrote it down, you'd probably be, I want to graduate from Harvard or whatever school, or I want to work. And then what? Oh, I want to get married. And then what? What did you prepare for marriage? What did you prepare for Firdaus? What did you prepare for all these different things? What's the sacrifice that you've done? You want to have a tranquil husband. You want to have a tranquil life. You want to have a tranquil marriage. What's the effort that you're putting in? And it's not washing the dishes and cooking the food. Your sisters, and that's why I emphasize on the sisters, because the sisters, their kingdom's at home. And they should have the time to be better and to learn. We're out there, men are dynamic. We're out there fighting the fight. We're on the battlefield, so we're always coming in maybe with our heads screwed on wrong. Because there's so many problems that go on out there. Just coming home in traffic sometimes can have you come in and you're in a bad mood. But if the sister can regulate that, you're going to have a great life.
Absolutely.
Because if you fear Allah in your husband's going to love you even more. Because we are aware there aren't a lot of righteous, good women out there. We are aware.
Absolutely.
We know that. I'm teaching these kids here, and I call them kids. They're all my kids' age. You guys are all sitting here. You're all my kids' age. I'm telling you this. And they realize it, you guys. Listen to me. And my kids listen to this stuff. So I'm just letting you know, لا ينال ما عند الله بمعصية الله. The further away you are from Allah, the more dunk you can have. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكَ. Whomsoever turns away from my path, he will lead a miserable life. The more you turn away from the path of Allah, the more miserable it's going to be. And a lot of us, why the kuffar happy? The kuffar are going to hellfire. That's why.
Yeah.
The shaitan doesn't bother them. He leaves them alone. Because they're already astray, so the shaitan doesn't come and torment their lives.
So.
They're living. That's why as soon as they become Muslim, their lives go upside down. Listen to all the stories of those who become Muslim. Nobody just becomes Muslim. And it's like hunky-dory. They have trials and tribulations. A lot of the stuff that's been flipping on social media is this young girl, she's from North Carolina or something, and her dad was a priest, or a Mexican girl, I think she's Hispanic or Latin. And her life got flipped upside down. She's like, I can't wear my hijab. My parents are watching me. I can't pray. She's 16 years old, so she can't leave the house type of thing. Wow. She can't marry. She's living. And she said how when I first became Muslim, and may Allah help her and guide her and guide the rest of the Muslims, inshallah ta'ala, that when she became Muslim, she wanted to go apply for a job, and she's like, I was praying Allah, and I didn't get the job, and I got really upset, and I said, oh Allah, why didn't you lam tastajib li? Why didn't you answer my prayers? That's not how it works.
No.
You don't get what you want.
Exactly.
A lot of times we don't understand what we want and what we need are two different things. Allah will give you what you need. If that means going to jail, that means dying. If that means you fall off a cliff and you break your neck, that's what you need. If you're sincere and bad things happen to you, that's what you need. Because you've been saying, Yo Allah, I want to go to Firdaus. You want to go to Firdaus? You're going to have trials and tribulations. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. And I bring extreme cases, you're going to have trials and tribulations. You have parents. Your mother, your father, your uncle. People are going to ridicule. They're going to laugh at you. You need to get some of that. So you can get a backbone. You need to get tough.
Absolutely.
So the sisters, one last comment is, Wallahi, if you fear Allah in your husband will change towards you. No matter how bad he is. No matter how bad he is.
Next question. Are daycares a viable option for Muslim couples? Because there's a lot of people say, well, we can both work. It's fine, right? And we're gonna take the kids. Daycare.
So let me ask you this. You ask anybody that has a half a brain, who's going to take care of your kids better, you or a stranger?
You.
Even your mother.
Right.
Your mother is 60. She had her kids. She doesn't have the time, the stamina, the effort, or the want to raise kids, so she's not going to do a good job. She might be a doctor's appointment, or you're off today, or something. Once in a blue, maybe. Yeah, and that too. Once in a blue moon type of thing. Once a week, once a month. Great, but to do it every day, akhi, she can't. Now this is the closest one to you, with the most vested interest in you. How are you going to pay somebody $15 an hour to take care of your kids, and they're going to do it with a nice
with love and care and compassion?
With nice compassion, and it's impossible, akhi. That's why we said earlier, by the time you pay the daycare and you pay the shoes and you pay everything else, you're barely making anything extra. And what's the purpose of this? Oh, so we can get another car. Akhi, we know a lot of non-Muslims. Their kids are staying home. Their wives are staying home because they know that nobody can raise the kids like they do. Akhi, your need for a husband should not be an ego challenge for you. It's your right. Allah created you, to need a man like He's created men to need a woman.
Right.
أنتم لباس لهم وهن لباس لكم. You are a garment for one another, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says.
Yeah.
You protect me and I protect you. You protect me from haram, I protect you from haram. You cover my sins, I cover your sins.
What do you say about the couple, if they don't have kids and they just want to work to build? Both of them are.
Once again, we come back to the issue of work. 95% of the environments of work are not halal.
Okay.
So now this puts us in a very bad predicament. Let's say, the whole argument of, the woman doctor, and we've talked about this, there's very few women that can actually be doctors.
Okay.
They have the stamina, they have the knowledge, they have the go-to, the how-to, I should say. They're very far and few in between. And a lot of those women would say, okay, I don't mind being a second wife, or I don't want to be married. Because you can't be a doctor and on call and be married and be successful.
It'll be very difficult,
both.
Yeah.
You just can't. Or have children, So, and to become a doctor, you spend hours upon hours upon hours with other men. You take a cadaver and you see all the parts of men. You see men that are completely naked. You see, akhi, you have to look at all these different things. What does a nurse do if somebody needs to do, what is it called, a cathopera, there's a word for it where they have a hard time urinating.
Colonoscopy.
No,
that's not.
You guys get the gist of it, and the woman has to do that.
You don't know, wallahi.
And then we have to go home and be happy. Why, akhi? Why do this? Okay, if she's going to teach at a school, or she can teach Quran, or the environment is safe, I'm not against her work, and especially if she doesn't have kids at home, or the kids are out. Yeah, but the environment, I want you guys to focus on
the environment.
The environment is very important. Don't lose your husband and or your wife because you want to make money. Means you ruined your akhirah for the sake of dunya. Don't do. That's why I say it's very hard to manage all these things, whether it's in Muslim countries or here. If you're in a safe environment and you can be around 95% women, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit overzealous and jealous, and I can't bend my mind around it.
Okay.
But you guys look at it objectively. Wallahi, it's better to have a second and third job than have your wife work. This is my opinion.
Okay.
It's Islam opinion, not my opinion. Like, it's a strong opinion in Islam as well.
Right. So you said earlier and this is another critique that viewers have given, is you said you should wait 3 years to have kids, right? Because it may not work out, and you want to leave with a clean slate and the clear conscience, right? But some people say, 3 years is too long, right? Why can't it be 6 months? Okay.
Don't wait. A lot of people think that what I said is Quran, like it has to be done in a certain way, otherwise your life's going to be ruined. So. No, a lot of stuff is opinion.
Right.
And I said that was my opinion. And I said, especially if you marry young, if you marry at 18 and he's 23, why have children right away?
Right.
You're 18. Now, if you're 30, that's a different story. So maybe the sister's like, I don't have time to wait 3 years. Yeah, you don't. Then that's a different story. And maybe you're more mature as well, that you know what you want. So when you sit and you talk with a man, it's going to be a lot easier to to kind of mesh and kind of work through life.
Sorry.
But if you're 18, you know nothing. You're 23, you know nothing. So you're getting married because you have a shahwa. At 18, you shouldn't be getting married to have a kid in this day and age. Before, people had kids early because they needed them to help harvest.
Sorry.
You don't need that in this day and age. If you need to love a kid, go rent one for a day or whatever. I'm serious, you guys. You don't need to have children right away if you're at a young age. I'm going to say this again and again. And if you think you should, go have it. It's not haram to have a child. But don't regret it later on because you don't listen. You know, not everything I say, it means that it has to be done to the T. These are suggestions, and they work for the majority of people, but there's a few people that are mature. There's a few people that are like, hey, we mesh so much together, we want to ruin our life by having a baby right away. And when I say ruin is because when you're young, and at the first year of marriage, you're still figuring each other out, and you have a baby right away, your hormones are all over the place. It's almost a recipe for disaster that you will not succeed in your marriage. I'm telling you guys.
Yeah.
It's already hard enough with sanity, you know, for the first year or two. So and I've been through that, I'm telling you guys. So I've known people, you know, they had a child right away and they're still getting to know each other. And the man doesn't know much about women, their hormones. You can be a doctor and read all about it. You don't know how bad it is until you experience it. And the women don't know how stressful men can get and can get into flight mode and fight mode over somebody cutting them off.
Yeah.
They don't know. They freak out when you like chase somebody and you're like, come on, let's fight right now. You know, they don't get that. So I'm just saying, women and men don't know each other very, very well till they live with each other. Because if the man you marry is opposite of your father, you haven't seen him. You haven't seen what men are. You only know what your father's type is. You know, so if you marry somebody that's not your father's type, it's a new world for you.
Right.
So don't jump in, have children, you're like, I don't get this guy. And now you guys can't live together. And instead of you getting close to each other, because that's all you have, when the woman has a baby, that becomes her life. That becomes her mission. So a husband who marries a wife and he's like, I want to have fun with my wife. I want to travel. Because a lot of us can't do this stuff in halal. You guys, you can't do it in halal. So in haram, I apologize. And we want to do it in halal. Okay, why should I just go travel by myself and sit in a hotel or with a couple of guys?
Right.
Okay, I would rather go with my wife and then we can experience these things that we don't do as Muslims, young men and young women, that we can have the romantic walks. We can stay up until 1 o'clock. Actually, we can wake up at 1 o'clock and just decide to fly somewhere.
Okay.
That's something we've never done, and I was always in the house and I can't leave and I'm protected and my father didn't let me leave. Okay, your father let you leave. Don't tie yourself down right away. After 23, 24, you know for sure if you and your husband are going to mesh. A lot of people say, oh, have a baby so you guys stay together. Don't let the baby be the reason you stay together.
Okay.
At an early age. Don't. Later on in life, yes. When there's mistakes, when there's these things that, oh, he's cheating, she's cheating, then we have kids, then we try to work it out because there's kids involved.
Yeah.
Or, you know, he wants to marry another and you don't want, that's when we start working. But don't try to start working on life and force the other person at the beginning of your life.
SubhanAllah.
So that's why I said that. I say this for a reason, you guys.
Okay. Here's another question. And so the sisters have a lot of concern. And this kind of goes back to stories that they hear. And
which are a lot of times inflated or lies.
Yeah, right. So it's anecdotal stories that they make a lot of beliefs predicated upon. One of them is, but this is not a story. This is kind of like, how do you deal with this? How should a Muslim wife deal with abuse if her husband becomes abusive?
First of all, I want you guys to understand, what is abuse? A lot of times the definition of the kuffar is not the definition of Muslims.
Okay.
So you're talking about Jannah by worshiping Isa alayhi salam. So you have a big problem.
Foundation.
You have a big problem. I'll give you an example, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل بعضهم على بعض بما أنفقوا من أموالهم فالصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن واهجروهن في المضاجع واضربوهن فإن أطعنكم فلا تبغوا عليهن سبيلا إن الله كان عليا كبيرا. صح؟ طيب This ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, and I had to bring the ayah from the beginning to remember. He said, فَعِذُهُنَّ. The first thing that a husband should do, because once again, you guys don't understand when we say the man is the protector. Why do we say الرجل رب البيت? أي هو المربي. He's the overseer of the household.
Right.
And this is why when you get married, you have to get married to a man that fears Allah, meaning his teachings are coming from Allah. He's hanging out with a sheikh that fears Allah, so when he makes mistakes, that sheikh can help him get through that, not some other person or Kevin Samuels or this kuffar that he's going to go get the wrong information. Red pill society, blah, blah, blah. So, you guys be very mindful. That's why we say, marry the righteous. إن جاءكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه. Whomsoever comes to you with good manners and deen, marry him right away. He didn't say you have to be rich and a high value man. Huh? You guys heard that? High value man, you have to make $10,000 a month and you have to be but that's some person made that up.
Yeah.
Our high value men are men who worship Allah properly, who love Allah, and what they will do, they will do it for the sake of Allah. If they love for the sake of Allah. If they hate for the sake of Allah. If they detest, they detest for the sake of Allah. If they give for the sake of Allah. So this is important. This is when we talk about, these are the high value men. These are the men of Jannah. These are high value men. Now if they have money and they give the rights of that money, they give the sadaqah, they give the zakat, and they don't hold back, that makes them even higher value. They're the top of the top of the top. Like Uthman, radiallahu anh, like Umar, like Ali, like Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhum jami'an. They were all very wealthy men. But they were very righteous men. So I wanted to establish this because abuse is what the Shara says is abuse. It's not what some kafir, some person who is an alphabet person, whomever it is, that they said, oh, it's abuse to tell your wife, to scold your wife or to scold your children. Like today, you say something to your children, oh, you're abuse, we're going to take your children away. It's the same concept, you guys. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, فَعِذُهُنَّ, remind them and make them fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do the reminder first. Allah gives us the steps.
Remind them when they're
doing something wrong, that to fear Allah, that this is wrong. So when you sit and you call it scolding, but I don't want it to sound like you're a little child and somebody's scolding you. No, they're scolding you or they're reminding you to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they have to get to a point where they have to be a little bit, their tone goes up because of the situation, then that's what's going to happen. It's like everybody's a teacher. Your teacher yells at you in class.
Yeah.
Why isn't he abusive?
Right.
Why isn't she abusive? When somebody yells at you, hey, settle down over there. When your coach yells at you. When your sensei, they yell at you. In the military, they yell at you. And they swear at you.
Yeah.
And they say bad things. And that's all good and dandy. And that's not abuse. That's going to make you a man. But when a man says, and I'm not saying some of it is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm establishing what does it mean to be abuse? Is it according to the kuffar or according to the Islam?
Right.
When somebody says, "Hey, fear Allah," hey, wake up! This is not permissible. You have to fear Allah, and they say it in a rigid way. This is not abuse. So we have to understand that. And a lot of times we don't understand. For instance, maybe I mentioned this once. So Allah said, فَعِذُهُنَّ وَهْجُورُهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ, is to turn your back away from them in the bed.
Relations, yep.
In relations, meaning you don't go sleep on the couch. You don't.
Okay, this is actually a good point.
People don't understand. Like, I'm going to go sleep in the basement. I'm going to sleep. No. You stay there in the bed. That's what Allah said. You turn your back.
Don't show any affection, though.
Don't. Because this is a lot of women can't deal with you rejecting them in that way. Allah's teaching men how to deal with it.
Right.
We don't want to do it. So you guys don't understand, we don't do it to have fun or to manipulate. No. It's to get you to understand, because now these are stages.
Yes.
I talk to you nicely. Then I raise my voice a little bit. And then you push me to say, okay, I'm going to ignore you.
Yeah.
This is what Islam does.
Okay.
Oh, here, you're gaslighting me. You guys don't understand that the kuffar, if they stay in marriage today and leave tomorrow, it's the same thing for them. She'll just go to the bar and get her shahwa on. She'll go play. She has 10 people on her phone she'll call if she has to have relations. If she gets into heat, she's going to push on the red button and heat's going to come to her. Muslims don't have that luxury. Sister, if you divorce, you're going to be alone. And it's not as easy for you to marry. Why? First of all, you have trauma. You won't trust men anymore.
Yep.
So it's gonna take you 2-3 years just to kind of get into that mode where you want a husband, and you will suffer through that.
A lot of therapy.
The man, we compartmentalize the word I'm looking for. Our emotions. We can go marry the next day. A wife could die, and the husband, on his way home, marry somebody.
Yeah.
And he still have sorrow for his wife, but he still needs a woman in his life.
Right.
So this is what you women, you're not like men. The kuffar and the leftists and the feminism, they are telling you guys that, oh, you don't need a man. Well, Allah created you for the man.
SubhanAllah. That's a great.
وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا لِتَسْكُنَ إِلَيْهَا.
تسكنوا إليها.
He created Hawa to what? To be a tranquility for Adam alayhi salam.
A mate.
To be somewhere where he can go and feel love and affection. Somebody he can run to and feel peace. He didn't create Hawa to fight with Adam and say, nope, we're not going to go there. I don't want to go 35W. I want to do 65. I don't know. That's not why. That's not your purpose. Your purpose on life, on this earth, is to be with a man. And to create children that will be good Muslims so you can get the ajr. How can your children be in harmony if you and your husband are not in harmony? The kids can't, the house can't. So sisters, be aware of the consequences of the kuffar, the feminists that are pushing you out of the house. Yeah, you don't need him. Oh, you do need him. If you want to go to Jannah, or if you want to stay out of haram, at minimum. A Muslim lady wants to stay out of haram.
Sure.
So when you divorce, you don't just go get married like this.
Yeah. There's a idda.
There's بخلاف العدة. Women just psychologically can't just move on like men. It's most of them. Some of them can, but doesn't mean you're going to be happy either.
Yeah.
Because you can't test drive. Huma hina, you can test drive. You go live with somebody, you test drive, you see if you like him, if you like her. We don't do that in Islam.
SubhanAllah.
So if you find somebody that you are 70% compatible with, kiss your forehead. How hard is it to kiss your forehead? Kiss it in the mirror. Kiss your picture. But I'm just saying, be extremely happy that if you can find somebody that's 70% compatible, you want akhi. And the kuffar talk about this.
Yeah.
Above 60, 70%. Don't even look for 90%. If you do, that's amazing. That's the blessing of the blessing of the blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, abuse, we have to look at it in the shade of Islam.
So how would you describe that last part? وَضْرِبُهُنَّ.
That's what I said, that you use the force necessary that will keep the relationship sane.
Okay.
It's not beaten. It's not hidden. If it's like, hey, stop if you do this type of thing, or if you shake her, whatever it is for certain women that they need.
Yeah.
And she might tell you, I need that. I'm telling you the truth, akhi.
Yeah.
So when you sit with your wife and you're just like, hey, she says, hey, every once in a while, I don't know, I saw my dad slap my mom. They come from a different culture. I want you to slap me. What are you going to do to that? What are you going to do, akhi? No, I'm serious. We never talk about these dilemmas. What are you going to do?
Some people will say, well, why don't you just
kiss her?
Why don't you just, she obviously is traumatized. That's what they'll say.
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
Okay, but while we are going to therapy, how do we fix the problem?
Okay.
What if we're in a place there's no therapy? Come on, you guys. These are هذه الحالات حالات شاذة. These are very small minority of people that get this far and do it.
Yeah.
But it's needed for many. In this case, in this situation. So I don't want this to, taken out of context. When I see some women want it, they will go in front of the judge and say, Judge, I need him to punch me every 2 days. Otherwise, I'm not going to be sane. You guys, listen to this. In Islam, and we're not talking about punching and beating. Once again, Islam does not promote that. We don't promote that violence. But I'm saying if there's an understanding between a man and a woman that she wants him to get physical and rough with her, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you what to do, because a lot of us will go in to marriage thinking, I don't know these things.
Yeah.
We just don't know. I've never had to do none of that crazy stuff, for instance, in my case, alhamdulillah. But there are some men that don't know, or they don't even know why they're having a hard time.
Yeah.
For instance, you could be living with a woman that needs to have intimacy 5 times a week, and you're only doing twice a week. She doesn't tell you, or she doesn't know Because don't forget, a lot of Muslims, they marry and they're virgins. So there's a lot of things they get to learn about themselves that might take 5, 6, 7, 8 years before they figure it out. And that's healthy because you're living it together. You didn't experience this to 10 other guys or whatever. So this is we're different. So when the kuffar says certain things, or they call it abuse, it's different. We look at things so much differently, akhi, that we really love our women for the sake of Allah. Even if we don't love them by heart, we know we're going to go to Jannah and we'll love each other forcefully. I'm serious. But I'm just, once again, I want to ask, and so I can clarify, what if the woman wants to have some sort of an abuse, if you want to call it that? Then what does the man do? Does he divorce her? Does he do that? So I'm just saying, maybe, of course, they probably there's trauma and they need to see therapy. But once again, we're talking about different people that live in different countries that have lived throughout the world. For instance, Islam talks about slavery, right?
Yeah.
Okay, slavery has been pretty much abolished in the world, right? So then what? Do we go take people and enslave them?
No.
So that's what we're saying. There's certain things that were done at certain times that the Quran addressed. If they happen, if they're needed, it's in the Quran.
It accommodates for it.
It accommodates for it. Because this is a complete book that works for every time. So there's certain things in the Quran that may not apply today because of the circumstance. Not because we've nullified them.
Yes.
Different. The circumstance allowed for no slavery.
Yeah.
So you can't expiate.
Yeah.
You can't expiate. You can't free a slave.
Sah.
And Allah talks about freeing a slave throughout the Quran. So I want to be clear. I wanted to bring an intellectual point. But understand there's a lot of things, for instance, that are just not worth messing with because the way that women are raised, for instance, if you slap her, that's physical abuse and you just can't live with her anymore. So you need to know that. I will not allow a man to slap my daughter.
Right.
I will not. I just won't. My daughter was not raised like that. I don't slap my daughters. I don't put my hands on my kids. So nobody else is going to do it because I will knock their lights out. So I want you guys to please understand that how things work, the dynamic. It's not that, hey, we want to beat our women. We don't. The abuse of women physically is way less in Muslim lands than it is in the West. Way less. Because we don't come in.
That's very interesting.
Because we look at the statistics. It's like 1 to 10 or something like this.
Bring the numbers.
You come in. The Muslims don't come in drunk most of the time. And I'm talking about righteous Muslims. Those who live like the kuffar, they will lead lives and have consequences like the kuffar. I'm talking about good people who follow Islam. Like I said, in our culture, we haven't seen men beat women. We just don't see it.
Yeah.
And that's a Muslim country that I was raised. I haven't seen my grandfather, I haven't seen my uncles, my father, nobody. So we just don't do it. So I want you guys to understand, but if somewhere in Asia, that's their culture, you can't just say, no, you don't do it. That's how they live their lives.
Yeah.
Whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, I'm just telling you. So, but Allah has given us the opportunity to look at things that might be very, very case specific for a certain time or a certain population that we know how to address the problem.
Allah ta'ala. This is really a lot more questions, but the time on us is very short. Okay, it says let's do one more. I think this is one that's good. At least let's end with this one, inshallah. When a brother is looking, or he's speaking to a sister, prospect of marriage, okay, there are some parts of the body that he's able to see and spectate, right, of the woman.
Nah.
All right, what's the evidence for that?
Well, what the Sahaba understood, first of all, the Prophet ﷺ, he came to Jabir,
and then the parts as well. Tell us about the parts that he's able to see.
When Jabir radiallahu anhu, he wanted to marry, he came to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, أرأيتها? Did you see her yet? قالوا لا لم أراها يا رسول الله. قالوا أذهب فانظر إليها. Go and look at her. Jabir said, I didn't know how to do that, so I was sneaking around their house and trying to see if I can see her. حتى رأيت منها ما دعاني لنكاحها. Until I've seen from her that which has called me or caused me to want to marry her. What does that mean? He didn't just see, he saw parts that how women dress in the confinement of their home. So the ulama said, and some oppose, but this is a very strong opinion, that he can see from her what she wears in front of her Mahram. So what my daughter wears in front of me, the khatib, who is serious, not the first day he comes and brings cake and we just throw her out there. No, when we get to the prospecting and we know, hey, we're going to get married, but listen, you should at least see her in this facet. That's after her mother has seen her, and you should see her in this facet, so you want to know 100%. Because if the woman you see, you don't feel like 110% that you want to go to town, then you shouldn't marry her, probably.
Those are good point.
So a lot of people, oh no, I'm not going to take off my niqab. Don't get married. Just don't get married, because you're going to ruin it. What are the chances that he's going to see and say, I want you, or I love you, or I want, or whatever, and then later on he's living with like, what am I going to do now? She's just not what I expected. I'm telling you, and she could be very beautiful.
Well, these are some real stuff.
You guys need to understand. You know, you guys will go to a doctor and say, oh, it's halal, let me take it all off.
Yeah.
Oh, doctor, I have this here, I have this there. Is this looking good? And it's, oh, yeah, male doctors are better than female doctors. MashaAllah. Yeah, I'm not going to go to a female doctor. Come on, you guys. Stop being ignorant. Wallahi al-azim. We have to understand that, once we get to seriousness, like I said, not anyone that comes in with a cake or whatever and like, oh, we're here. Yeah, send out the daughter and let her. No. After it's serious for a while, they sit and they talk. If it meshes out, and they're like, my daughter says that I would be very interested to move forward, or whatever it is. Every person will communicate differently, or to her mother. And then the parents, they talk. That's why you need to have your parents involved. And the parents talk, and mom says, yeah, my son, he's like drooling over he's like, yes, I'm all in. Okay, that's like, okay, mashallah, this next time, we're going to be sitting in the salah together. Because then the boy, when daddy's there, he's not going to be like, he's going to be like trying to catch a glance. He's going to try. So he won't even be focusing too much. Yeah. But she can wear, without a hijab. She can have her hair done. She can wear, something below, the knee. Yeah. So things where when he sees, he's like, okay, mashallah, alhamdulillah, I wasn't wrong about this.
Or he's going to... just quickly, could you just name those parts that...
It's just what you wear at home.
Okay.
In front of your father.
So probably...
short sleeve, three-fourths, down to the shin, to the mid-leg. Yeah, just what she would wear in front of her mahram, in front of her grandfather, in front of her father. And that's ما تلبس أمام محارمها. That's what the scholars have said, because that's what Jabir saw radiallahu anhu, and the Prophet ﷺ told him to go see her. So he said, this is better for you to last longer together, and that you actually have acceptance and want to be with her.
Well, this is why I appreciate the Prophet ﷺ. He gives you plugs in so many different ways.
Exactly, akhi.
And people are always looking for these things. Oh, I want this kind of husband. I get the Prophet ﷺ already told us about the things that we need to look for, and the things that will make us happy and bring a happy marriage. No. So it's pretty clear. No. If you're trying to look for things outside of that,
well, you want to live like a Muslim. With Christian values or kuffar values. This is the problem, akhi. Yeah. You have to, if you want to reap the benefits of the tranquility of the heart of those who are going to Jannah, you have to obey and follow the rules that Allah set forth in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's kind of I don't know if there's a wrap up you want to make.
There is exactly. It's a beautiful session so far, but the people are still hungry, and I am too. So we need to have another one, inshallah.
I don't mind. We can do these questions if you want definitely. More, or after this, maybe some questions will come up.
Right.
And I'm sure some person is going to say he talked about abuse and punching and beating.
So we have a lot to clarify already.
I already did, and I said I'm probably going to regret doing this or talking about it. But I think it's fair for the sake of Allah, for His Deen, that we clarify. This is for certain people in certain situations and in certain cultures. We may not understand it. Like the non-Muslims don't understand why we pray 5 times a day.
Yeah, everybody has
they
different
just don't
cultures.
Understand our culture.
Absolutely.
So, and we don't understand why they do certain things as well.
Yeah.
So that's the culture. You call it whatever you call it, but we try to put Western values and try to Islamicize them and say, this is Islam. No, Islam, the Quran. You want to know Islam, read the Quran. SubhanAllah.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Again, this is a wonderful session. We will definitely be having you on again. There's many brothers and sisters have benefited from this people still have questions, so please bring in your questions,
No.
and we'll have future sessions to answer some of these. And for those that we didn't get to your questions, forgive us, inshallah. We didn't do it intentionally, but you can imagine the nature of the podcast and how things go. We only have so much time in the day.
And we even tried to get some of these questions so we can be quick in answering. But subhanallah, I mean, we all this is on the fly, you guys. Subhanallah. So you don't. I mean, mashallah, we did. I think we talked about a lot tonight that would clarify a lot of the things. I'm sure it's gonna answer some questions, raise some questions, but at the end of the day, you guys, once you start learning your Deen, if you read the Quran objectively, just 2 ayahs a day, and try to understand them, you're gonna become a different person.
Absolutely.
If you read 1 juz a day, every day, and you try to understand 1 ayah a day, every day, your life will change. And you'll start to see all of the cobwebs that are hanging around the kuffar ideology, the feminism ideology, the secular ideology, the shaitanic, satanic, Masonic, ideology. It's out to get your money, and it's out to ruin your akhlaq. Because when men and women are separated, they will consume twice as much. And the world, like somebody said, was not built to have men and women live alone. We don't have enough houses. There's not enough food. There's not enough restaurants, enough cars. All the problems that we have on this earth today is because men and women live separately and not together. We are almost consuming a double of everything in most cases. And that's why we are deteriorating our earth as fast as we are, because we were not created to be separate.
Kind of
Allah created us to be together for one another, inshallah.
SubhanAllah. Anyways, jazakumullah khair, everybody. And we appreciate you, Sayyidi, for coming out here and giving us some of your time. We ask Allah to forgive us and to accept from our efforts. And you guys have any comments, any feedbacks, drop the comments down below, and like this video, share it, and interact with our pages. We have a page on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes, right? Podcasts. So, jazakumullah khair, everybody, for tuning on in again for another episode. We'll see you until next time. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.